In this session, we will try to understand the integration between EWM and QM on S4 side. So first and foremost is that couple of SAP notes which you should download and have access to. They'll give you the detail about doing the partial UD. And there is this document called How to Guide. Download this one. It will give the details for the complete setup, and it will talk about the master data which is needed on the S4 side and the configuration needed on S4 and both EWM side. So it's important that you have these documents with you because I'm not going to cover everything in this session. So just highlighting a couple of things here. So the prereq is that the WPT determination is done so that when you are creating the inbound delivery system is able to identify the relevant WPT wherein you have activated or maintained the POSC, which includes the quality step, right? So these are not particularly relevant or specifically, needed just for this topic. It is in general needed for the communication or the determination of WPT and the document type in EWM side when you send the IBD is replicated from S4 to EWM. Now the WPT which you will maintain should have the POSC and the quality step. Another important thing is that make sure that the quality step is marked as rule based so that if there is no inspection lot involved for that particular handling unit, system will skip this step and move on to the next one. And since we need the POSC step, so it's important that the packing is carried out for the inbound delivery either on S4 or EWM side. You can do the packing. There are multiple options, 4, 5, or more than probably those. So you can pack in IBD in S4. You can pack, and this all the steps are before GR, right? So pack in IBD in EWM in PRDI, or you pack in RF, or you can use pack instruction to pack in IBD automatically using POP1 etc. T code, and then you have Packspec in EWM. So there are multiple options to activate to do the automatic packing, etc. Or you can even use the WOCR creation rule and pack profile, which again utilizes the Packspec T code to pack the content. But then this will come later in the process. So using one of these options which I explained, and then you can have UPB. And if there is UPB, you can use that also to decide whether you want to use the pack instruction or the pack spec seamlessly between S4 and EWM. Now, another thing is that since we are talking about the inbound process, if there is a door determined in your inbound delivery in EWM based on the staging area determination table, then system will treat it as a complex unload process, even though you may or may not have the unloading step. But once the door is determined, it is hard coded in the transaction code. That system will consider it as a complex unload. So when you're using the RF transaction, system will require a warehouse task. It could be just that your POC just has one step, for put away, but system will still treat it as a complex unload, and it's not necessary that the put away task or the warehouse task for your inbound delivery, wherein if your POC has just one step, put away, it doesn't require that. Not necessary that the unload task has to be there. System just requires a warehouse task so that you can use the RF transaction, the unloading transaction, wherein door is determined in your delivery and system will treat it as a complex unload. So the EWM and QM config is done, S4 config is done. So these are the steps which I've already activated. We'll go through the details in a while. First, we are going to take a look at the end user part, and then we'll jump onto the configuration part. So if we look at the material master data in the QM view, you will see that I've maintained the inspection setup. For the inspection type, these are the details. So like I said, there is a document which talks about all the master data setup. So I'll not drain too much on it, but I will touch upon where it is necessary. So we'll pack the content in S4 side before we replicate or save the delivery, and it gets replicated to EWM. Once your inbound delivery is created, go to PRDI transaction code. So we can see the handling unit is there, and the stock type right now is F1. And this is the WPT. So within that WPT, we have the POSC maintained, through which we will get the quality inspection step. As you can see, the system has determined a POSC and system is creating a HU warehouse task. So you can see that this is the POSC. Now once the warehouse task is created, since I have not done the resource management part here, system won't be assigning it to a queue. So we'll assign it to the queue. In this case, the unload step is there. So the very first warehouse task which is created is for the unloading, and since there is a door, system will treat it as a complex unloading. Which means that you're unloading from the truck or container, and then the product will be moved to the staging area. Once we will conclude this warehouse task. So we'll use the inbound delivery for processing. Since we don't have any barcode, we will just select the handling unit in discussion. Now the GR will happen at the door bin, and using this warehouse task for unload, the product is getting moved. Not only the GR will happen, we are also at the same time we are also moving the product from door to the staging area. Now system did show a message that it is preparing quality inspection. So once this is carried out, let's refresh it. The unload and the good receipt, since it is complex unloading, both will happen at the same time. Now we can see that the HU has been received over here. Let's take a look at the inspection load. So to track the inspection load, there are multiple options. You can check in the warehouse monitor. You can click on the item, and then from here you can check the inspection lot details, or you can just simply check here the inspection lot is created. Now once the inspection lot is created, the stock is right now in the staging area. So the product or the handling unit has to be moved over to the quality inspection work center before you can do a UD. So we'll navigate to identify or otherwise without even navigating, what we could have done is we could go to manual selection, HU, assuming that the next WT is mapped to a queue. Since I'm not processing directly with reference to the queue, it's not really necessary to get it assigned to a queue. But if you wish to process via, the system is not able to determine the queue, it's missing the details. So let me just verify it once. It is assigned to a queue. So even though the warehouse order is created and the queue is assigned to the warehouse order, when I'm processing it on the RF, it is giving me the message that no suitable document found. So it is because of the incomplete setup for the resource management. So again, this is topic, these steps which I'm doing right now, it's not relevant for the specifically relevant for the QM setup. So we'll get to that point. Now this is done. So what we are doing right now is we are moving the handling unit over to the quality area. So initially we process the warehouse task or the warehouse order to not only do the GR, but move the product from door to staging area. Now from staging area, we moved it over to quality inspection area. Now that it is received, so there are multiple transaction code through which you can do the UD or usage decision. Generally, I prefer to use QA32, but this is also one of the mechanism through which we can do it. You can see that the checkbox are blank, right? So which means the step for the quality inspection is not yet completed. So let me go to QA32 and then we can see two options over there. So via UA32, when you will click on the usage decision, you'll get the option to carry out the UD at the header level, which means that you do not want to you do not want to deal with the partial lot inspection. So you don't want to split the quantity between rejected and accepted. You just want to accept or completely reject all the quantity. So if you want to do the header level inspection, which means that whichever code you will apply, it will be applicable for uh, all the handling units or the content in the handling unit for involved in this inspection lot. But however, if you want to do it at the item level, you want to split between probably between partially quantity getting accepted, partial quantity getting rejected, or maybe getting scrapped, then you have to come to this particular screen. Now, so what we are going to do here is we are going to split the partially we will accept and partial quantity we will reject. So now that we are at this particular screen, you can see that these are the options which are coming right available for the user. Now let's take a look at the linked configuration, due to which we are getting these values. Now there is something called selected set. These are values are part of the selected set. Now selected set is nothing but it's just like an umbrella term under which you have all these codes. We call these the codes are linked in a again under umbrella term called code group. So if we take a look at the setup on the S4 side, since we are doing this transaction which we are looking at, it's getting executed in S4 side. Let's jump to the configuration. So first important thing is that the selected set is maintained at the plant level. Now you can have a separate selected set for the full UD and the one for partial UD, or you can just have one for both, which means that you should have the codes for partial and full UD in it. So this is the important setting. So if you miss to maintain this value, even though you might notice that the code groups are displayed here, when you will apply one, system will give the error. So you need to make sure that the for the partial UD you maintain the selected set. In this case both are same. In my case I have the codes, like you will see that for partial acceptance there are separate codes, and for full acceptance there are separate codes, right? So you can group you can create two selected set depending upon whether you want to have just the partial codes displaying over there or not. So like I said, selected set is nothing but a umbrella term, or it's like a box within which you will store these codes, right? And you can differentiate, you can create two separate selected set. It's like this folder, right? So assume that this is the folder for selected set, and then you have another subfolder for the code groups. Like suppose you have clubbed these green one in one code group and then the red one in another code group. So now we will take at that particular grouping. So this is the important part, and or this is the main part. There's not much into it. Now you can see that first we have the selected sets assigned to the plant, and then within this selected set you have the codes. You can see that first the entry is for the code group. As I said, you can create multiple code groups, only one for just for the partial one for the full UD. But in my case, everything is clubbed under one group, and it is exactly like this. So at this level, you have the selected set, which is assigned to the plant, and then you have the code group, and then you have the codes. And that is the hierarchy which we are looking at here. Now this is the key point. So the code itself doesn't carry anything. So I can just put my name over here, against this particular code. It doesn't reflect anything, but this particular configuration node carries the main setup. Now you can see that there is a follow-up action mentioned over here. Now this with by maintaining this value, system will understand that if we are applying this particular code, what exactly needs to happen in EWM. I can simply say that I'm accepting the in the UD I can put this value as accepted. But what exactly does it mean? Does it mean that the product move from quality to the unrestricted stock type, or does it goes to the block stock type? That information is retained in the follow-up action. Now I will open the another screen in parallel to go through it. So the configuration which we are going through, again there are a lot of configuration, there are other configuration involved here, but this is the main part. If you understand this setup, I think you will understand around 70% of it. So follow-up action, what exactly is this follow-up action? So SAP has given function module, one for the full UD and one for the partial UD. So full UD means if you have 10 quantity in the HU, you want to apply just one code. You want to accept reject for the whole quantity. But if you want to split between the quantity, for partial 5 quantity you want to do accept, and let's say 4 you want to do reject, and for one quantity you want to scrap it, then you need to use the code for partial. So this in the drop down you will see the L and T as the value. So T is used for the partial, and this is a standard setup, right? So you don't have to do it. This comes by default, and then L, unless you are copying and creating another one. Then if you can see that there is a specific function module which is mentioned in all the code follow-up action which are with the category L, right? So this is a function module for that. Now, if you check any of these values which are with L, you will find the same FM. Now, whenever it is T, it's for partial. This is the FM. So these are the two FM. Again, you don't have to do anything. Just showing this information over here. Now, the main thing which you need to understand is that from the end user perspective, the operator will or the user is going to accept one of the values, right? Either full or the partial. Now, what exactly does it translate into in EWM side in terms of the stock type? So if you select this particular value, right? So if we go back to S4 configuration, we see that for the code A, this is the value. Now, within this value, we will declare whether the stock should be moved to quality inspection stock type or the unrestricted or whatever needs to happen or scrapping. So this is the main thing, right? So on the S4 side, even though we are doing the UD, but system is going to generate a Q2 as EWM, and then EWM will decide what needs to happen. So based on if you'll change this value to let's say BB, which is for block stock, right? Then instead of even though it's a put away task, system will move it into block stock. So system will carry out a posting change between from quality stock to block stock, right? So we will take a look at, so this is one of the code. Now we will take a look at the another code. So we will do the partial UD to see both the examples. So this is the one for partial acceptance, and then partial rejection. We have another code. So you have to come here, you have to click on new entry. Make sure you select the inspection object type 4. This means that you are doing the inspection process in the quality in the inbound area or against the inbound delivery. That's what it means. You don't have to put a WPT here system. If there is an inbound delivery involved, then system will pick the WPT from there. But if there is none, then system will, let's say your POSC has ended just at the quality step. But after the POSC use, after the UD is done, you want to put it away, then you can enter a WPT. Now, this one is for partial acceptance. This one is for partial rejection, right? Now let's process it. So this is one of the key factor, the linkage which we have just gone through. This is one of the key setup over here. Now just we went inside the selected set and we saw the code group. So where do we define this code group? And code group is nothing like, it's just a folder, right? It's a subfolder. So you have the selected set here, which is assigned to a plant. Then you have the code group, and then you have the codes. So the code group, you will define it here. It's more of a descriptive information, I would say. The main functionality is within that follow-up action, and then you declare this information over. You can create as many as you want, right? So now let's proceed with the partial acceptance. The moment I will accept it, system will fetch the follow-up action from behind the scene. Now that, so we had in total 9 quantity, out of that 2 quantity has been accepted. Not yet, but we have given the code. So let's delete this. So for the remaining quantity, I want to create another sub item. So you will click on this button. So we will repack the content. we will repack the content, the quantity which we want to reject into a separate handling unit. The moment we are entering the code here, system is fetching the follow-up action, and we have seen the configuration through which system is determining it. Important thing is that if you are selecting one row and then clicking on trigger follow-up button and the other one is not done, and then you try to click on close H, you will see the error. There will be error. So you have to select both. Now another thing is that you will notice that at times you are not getting this particular button here. So what you need to do in this case is, if you don't get this button, then you have to come to the configuration in EWM side. Come to this particular node and make sure you mark this checkbox which I'm going to display. So mark this particular checkbox. Once you will mark that checkbox, you will get the trigger follow-up button over there. Now once we will complete the transaction, then we will jump into the configuration part. So click on trigger follow-up. Now you can see that the screen is disabled. After that, click on close HU. You will see the checkbox is marked, right? And then acknowledge it. You can mark the complete inspection. It's important that we have to click on save button. If we'll not do that, the information won't be getting saved. So you can see that here the data is not populated and it's not needed as well, because we are doing the partial UD. Now there is quite a bit of information which is needed, which is done by the QM consultant. Now it's great that if you know this information which I'm displaying, but it's not completely the responsibility for the EWM consultant to carry out the whole setup. In my case, I've done it, but it's a collaborative effort between the QM and EWM consultant. For example, the inspection plan will be created by QM guy, not by us, as in the logistics consultant. So now we will go to the inbound delivery. We'll take a look at the information. So initially there was only one HU, but then we did the repacking at the quality inspection work center. So we can see the HU over here, and once we'll click on it, we'll get to see what is the inspection, what is the stock type now. So everything was in quality initially, but now once we do the UD, you can see that the POSC data is also passed over to the new HU, and you can see that it is in the block stock. And this one is in unrestricted. So you can see that using the partial UD option, we can split the quantity between two handling units and then carry out the UD for them. So now when we click on the warehouse order, we will find the warehouse order getting which are automatically created for put away. So now that the quality inspection is done, we are having two put away tasks, and these are, there is a setup in the, so let me click here first. So there is a option if you want to create the final put away task as a HU task instead of the product warehouse task. Now in this case it is created as a product warehouse task, but there is a option through which it can be created as a HU warehouse task. So once we will do the put away, the stock, this will conclude the process. Now I'm not going into the put away step in this scenario because this session is focused around the quality inspection integration. So let's jump to the EWM configuration. So first and foremost is that you need to activate the inspection object type for the inbound delivery, right? So you have to select, if it is not active, click here, click on the new version. Why do we need what exactly it carries over here is that, so in the EWM side we have a transaction code called QR setup, wherein you can maintain the selection parameter based on which system will generate or activate the quality inspection for in the inbound delivery. Now in the inbound delivery, in the QR setup transaction code, sorry, in this transaction code, you will see that there are multiple fields available based on which we can activate the quality inspection for an inbound delivery. So we can do it based on just, so these are the fields, right? So where is the information wherein system is able to determine that these are the only fields which needs to be utilized. So if I click over here, you can see that for the object type, if you click here, you will find the fields, right? So using this info setup, system is able to determine the fields based on which the inspection relevance has been flagged. Now you can restrict it to a item type. You can go, you can narrow down the activation. So you can go from inbound delivery item type, product, or if you, because if you use the product, then what it means is that if you have 50,000 material, then you have to maintain this data for 50,000 material. So instead of doing that, what you can do is you can create an quality inspection group, and then you will maintain this inspection group in the product master. So that will reduce the data maintenance. Now, if you want to introduce any other field, then you have to add that field under that IoT configuration, and then it will start reflecting. If it is a custom field, it will require the enhancement. It's similar to condition table, what we used to have in S4, and we still have it. So you can see the quality inspection group. So to avoid the data maintenance, you can use the inspection group. Now the thing is that the set of fields which you are seeing here are derived from this particular setup. So if you have created multiple version, then you can choose to activate whichever you want to use. So the IoT contains only the information that whether you want to how do you want to activate the quality inspection for inbound delivery, or for, there are other IoTs, right? So if you want to generate the inspection lot within EWM, you know, so for internal purpose, for return delivery, counting, etc. So these are the IoTs, right? So what we are dealing with right now is IoT 4. Now once this setup is done, then the other setup was important setup we have already seen. Again, make sure that your work center is assigned over here, default work center, to your warehouse. So you can create the inspection group here. This is one of the important node on the EWM side. We saw that if this checkbox is not marked, that trigger follow button will not appear, right? So it's important that, and you can see that the inspection relevance has been triggered in my case from material master. That's why, I maintained the QM view with all the information. If you are using the material master as a option, then you still have to maintain one generic QR inspection rule in the QR setup transaction code. If you want to create a new follow-up action, then make sure that you copy the existing one depending on whether it is for partial or the full, and then you go and maintain the relevant stock type and the WPT, right, in this particular node. Now another thing which we are going to take a look at in this case is the POSC. So I've already mentioned this particular point that when you are defining the POSC for this particular scenario, make sure that you activate the rule-based checkbox. And what you will achieve by doing that is system will skip this quality inspection step if there is none of the material are relevant for quality inspection. Also, it's important that you have mapped the bin to your work center in this T code. If you have not mapped it, you will find that when you're doing the partial UD, then system is giving an error. So to avoid this, make sure that you do this as well. Now let's browse through the document to go through some of the details. So you can see the details here for the code group, etc., and then the master data needed. This is another important step. So the inspection type, if you're creating a new inspection type for the inspection process in the inbound delivery in the GI process, then make sure that it is mapped to the inspection lot origin 17. So if you're creating a new value, you have to come to this node and map the inspection type over here. Using the inspection origin, system understand for which process you're doing it. So you can see that, right, stock transfer and whatnot. And again, this is a QM relevant setup, but since we are going through it, this document explains everything. I'm just browsing through it for the purpose of recording so that you have the access to this document. Now there is if you want to generate a log, you have to go to the act log and then you have to maintain the relevant information. So I'll just quickly browse through it so that the information is captured in as part of this recording. So these are the objects which you need to maintain to activate the log. This is the transaction code so that you can see the log in SLG1. So inspection characteristics you can create here, and then the sampling procedure. These are the T codes. T codes. Now, then the rest of the process talks about how to, use it, the end user part, and there are the details for body as well. We have gone through it already. So it's a very good document. And these two notes, so just for the purpose of recording, I'll just browse through them. They'll tell you the steps, precisely the sequence in which you have to carry out the activity for the UD. I think we have covered or touched upon the important points. The rest of the point which I have not covered, creating the master data, etc., those are already given in the document. Now, one thing which I want to probably briefly touch upon is that if you have already done the UD, so I'm talking about the GR reversal for a line item or a product where the inspection lot was generated or a handling unit. So if you've already done the UD, then you cannot do the GR reversal. You have to follow the RTV or the return PO process to ship the product back to the vendor, right? So initially the stock type was F1. Once you'll do the GR, you can see that it is Q3. Now, if there is an inbound delivery wherein you have just done the GR, but the UD is not yet done, so then system still allows you to assume that the product is still in the same bin where you did the GR or the goods movement bin, and then you can reverse it. But after the UD is done, you might not have completed the put away process, right? Put away is still not done, but since the UD is done, I cannot, system won't allow us to do the GR reversal because the decision on the lot has been already taken. Thank you.